Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Legendary cult filmmaker John Waters brings his stand-up show, A John Waters Christmas, to the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on December 21st. We spoke about the show as well as his memories of growing up in Baltimore, protesting in D.C., and directing cult classics from Pink Flamingos to Hairspray, which later became a mainstream Broadway musical.
Hello? Anybody there?
Yes. Hey, is this John Waters? The John Waters?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. How are you?
Good. Hey, thanks so much for calling. This is a real treat.
Thank you.
We're talking about a John Waters Christmas that's going to be coming to the Birchmere here coming up in December. Before we get to that, we last spoke at when they reopened the Parkway Theater in Baltimore a couple years ago. And
yeah.
So much fun. And you said that Baltimore is so much cooler than D.C. Do you still believe that, or when you come down to...
I do. Well, I think they don't mix. It's so weird because sometimes everybody in Baltimore thinks D.C. is kind of square, and everybody in Washington thinks Baltimore, everybody's a redneck, and they're both right.
Yeah, equal shade for both. Well, I had to open with that. Thanks for answering.
No, but the only thing I hate about Washington, I hate driving there.
Yeah.
It's all drunks on the road, and it has great museums, it has great clubs, so I've always had a great audience there. I miss some of the art theaters that used to be there that really Pink Flamingos made its name there and everything, so I've always had a great home for my movies in Washington, completely. And I've been to lots of good riots there, so I have good memories of Washington.
Wait, which riots were you here for?
Oh, I did worse. I peed on the Pentagon once, and John Mitchell looked out the window and saw me. And just a different yippee, crazy revolutionary stuff in the '60s. Yes, I was at Martin Luther King March. I was at all of them.
Oh yeah, I mean, Baltimore and DC aren't very far apart, so that was a quick trip to get down for all those protests and stuff.
Yeah, well, I always take the train now if you're coming for a protest, because parking in a riot is not so easy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, man, wow, peeing on the the Birchmere. This is my segue. You ready? The Birchmere is just right down the road for the smell of your peeing on the Pentagon. That's the best I can do.
Well, I've peed in the Birchmere too.
You've peed in the Birchmere. Well, a lot of people have, but in the restroom.
Yes.
But
yes.
I don't know if that's not going to happen on stage during the show, though. I think
there's no water sports in this year, though I do talk about it.
Well, I just heard that Gallagher passed away. That's a different kind of splatter from the stage if you're up there.
Well, and I'm talking about elimination. Now my friend in San Francisco tells me that every night homeless people take a dump in between the cars on the street, and then he heard somebody on the roof, and he thought it was Santa, but it was someone taking a dump on his roof. And I said, people climb on your roof to take a dump? Maybe we have to start doing that ourselves to our enemy politically.
Is that 8 tiny reindeer? No, it's a big pile of poopy.
Yeah. Clarence Thomas, where's your roof?
Exactly.
Well, he's eliminating our rights. We can eliminate his. Can pinching a loaf be political? I don't know. Chick-o-lay for turd-o-lay? I don't know.
You're George Bailey's, and he's Clarence.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we sort of, tangented plenty, but tell me about, in all seriousness, what's the deal with the John Waters Christmas show? I know you've done it the last couple of years. What year are we in now?
But it's completely different. I rewrite it every year. I just finished rewriting it yesterday, actually.
Oh, great.
Now I got to learn it. But it's about how everything's broken. Nothing's worked. COVID killed everything. Did it kill Christmas? And so I'm in despair in the first act, and then I rally, and I think I'm a half-full kind of guy, and so is my audience, and I give you insane advice how to make everything better, even though it would be completely an insane way to do it. And my audience, which is smart and beautiful and well-dressed, they get it. They get it. They get my sense of humor completely.
Oh, of course. Well, your sense of humor is well documented by now, so we know what we're in for, and it's a real treat. Now, that's
what I mean. I don't ever get walkouts, and I talk about hideous things, and people think, not that the people that would hate me, they know enough not to come now. I mean, not that many people are dragged innocently into one of my shows and completely think that I was going to come out and sing Andy Williams Christmas carols or something.
Yeah, I really don't think that's it's like when you throw on Bad Santa, you're not getting Andy Williams songs. But
Yeah, Bad Santa watches over me.
Bad Santa, yeah, Billy Bob watches over the show. Well,
Yeah.
so is it obviously, I mean, I guess it's sort of like is it like a stand-up routine, or I mean,
Yes, it's a 70-minute monologue, totally written in 20 minutes of questions. And it's about Christmas, but it's about Christmas crime, Christmas blasphemy, Christmas humor, Christmas scatology, Christmas politics, Christmas fashion, Christmas carols, everything. You can't escape Christmas, even if you're Al Qaeda.
Exactly, it's coming for you. So it's all Christmas themed, obviously, like you just said. But do you have? I mean, there's been so much craziness going on in the country. Do you ever weave in local, or not local, but national politics and January 6th and all that crap?
Oh yeah, and the elections, and January 6th is mentioned, Antifa is mentioned, all extremes are mentioned, because you just wonder, could you go Christmas caroling with Antifa? I don't know. Can you hire Proud Boys to be go-go boys at an office party? I don't know.
What speaking of Christmas, what was Christmas like for you growing up? I know you were born in Baltimore. That's your claim to fame. But
it was very functional and great. I loved it. The Christmas tree did fall over on my grandmother once, which I remember with glee, but she wasn't really injured or anything. But I used that in one of my movies in Female Trouble when Divine knocks over the tree. So all around the world, people tell me stories about the Christmas tree falling over in their house, and it happens really a lot. It's always usually involved with liquor or the dog, though. But neither one of those things were why it fell over on my grandmother. I don't know what happened. It was just a bad accident. It just fell over, and I just thought, I hope my presents aren't broken.
Sounds like a Griswold tree. But speaking of the presents getting broke, do you remember having any favorite Christmas gifts growing up? Did any stand out?
I have a Christmas picture that I don't know where it is now, but it was in our family album of me under the Christmas tree. I was about 10 or 11, and I'm holding the album, The Genius of Ray Charles, which I couldn't believe I even knew. I certainly asked my parents for that album. They would not have known about it. And there I was. So my parents, and they gave me what I wanted, really. And I love that picture. It's a great album. I still play it.
Wow, that is an amazing gift. Well, I was going to ask you if you had any favorite Christmas carols, but I guess they're all on the Ray Charles album, I guess.
Well, the other weird thing is that I used to get a carton of Cools for Christmas in my stocking, and my parents were very straight. That was, it wasn't thought of to be bad to smoke. And when you were 16, you got smoking permission. When I was in Catholic high school, we had a smoking area from 9th to 12th grade. We were allowed to smoke. And I look back on it, and I think, well, there used to be ads in magazines saying doctors recommend Cool cigarettes when you have or menthol cigarettes when you have a pneumonia or something. So that's one thing I wish I had taken a picture of, that stocking hanging on the fireplace with a carton of Cool sticking out of it.
Man, times have changed. Yeah, it was totally acceptable back. Well, you know what? Santa smokes his pipe. The chimney smokes. Santa smokes. You get to smoke as a kid. Why not?
Well, it's the only thing I regret in life is smoking.
Well, that'll do it. Probably you and a lot of other people, but times have changed. But all right, cool.
Well, Santa, even that. I mean, is he fat shaming? Is he politically correct? I don't know. He's got PETA would come after his animals. Mrs. Claus is nobody's jollies. I mean, there's lots of things. I mean, are those elves unionized? I mean.
Yeah, you gotta. I guess it's little people instead of elves. Like, everything's a little renamed nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I mean, like you're saying, there's so much material for for stuff to
write. Yes, there is, definitely, and I've used a lot of it this year.
Well, we can't wait. We really, really can't wait.
Goodman Bush was such a great place. I mean, I played there so many years, and I look at all the other, Joan Baez, all the other people that have played there, and I'm in quite mixed company, but a great time there.
Oh yeah, when you look around the walls and see all the other acts that have played, that is one of the absolute treats of a historic place like that. Well, you mentioned a few seconds ago that DC's always been good to you, with the opening of Pink Flamingos and everything. I guess we're officially in the 50th anniversary. Is it 50 years now? Yeah, I guess.
Yes,
so.
It came out this year. But Criterion put it out, and we had theatrical runs and everything. And what was so great, when I would go to the theaters to introduce it, the audience was 20 years old. They had never seen it. And it still worked. I am the filthiest person alive. I won.
You set out to be the filthiest person, and you achieved it. You still are all these years later. Well, and of course, it starred the iconic countercultural Divine. Didn't you grow up together before making those? He was from around the area too.
Divine lived down the street with his parents. He moved when we were in high school, and his parents ran a day nursery for children, and Divine was their only child. I'm not sure he was the best advertisement for its nursery, but Divine was very different in high school. He was hassled every day by the teachers and the students. He was, really tortured in school. So he used that rage later to create the character of Divine. And at the end of his career, he was getting great reviews for playing the opposite of that image. I thought up Divine to scare hippies. And Divine wasn't trans. He didn't want to be a woman. I always said he wanted to be Godzilla.
You created the character with Divine to scare, what did you say?
Hippies.
Yeah, well, it worked, and speaking of things that have changed a lot, wow, I mean, we're much more. Well, I'd like to think we're a much more accepting society now, but I feel like we.
Oh no, we all argue. I don't know what happened with the pervert brand. We all used to get along. Now we argue with each other. So dreary, We're weakening our pervert brand.
I love it. Well, of course, if any fans of your work, that kicked off the Trash trilogy, Female Trouble, Desperate Living, all that stuff. Did you initially intend it as a trilogy, or is it just more like that's what critics sort of slapped the label on it?
I think they just put around it because after that, Polyester I made, and that was sort of not a midnight movie, and it was it was rated R, and it was more commercial. So I think it all just happened accidentally, including Hairspray being that commercial. I never even thought I was making a more commercial movie when I made that. So I thought they all were commercial. I just was wrong a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then of course, so many people nowadays forget that your Hairspray, it wasn't like the shiny Broadway musical like it later became. But talk about
they did a great job with it, and it respected my movie completely. And Hairspray was a dance movie. There was no original music in it. There was great rhythm and blues songs in it, but they were real songs. Where Hairspray turned it into a musical, made it sing, and then they did the same thing with Crybaby, which was not a hit, but I think they did a great job with Crybaby. I hope that gets revived one day, because the problem was it was the sexiest Broadway musical for the whole family. And that doesn't usually work. There was frontal nudity in it, but it was for the family.
Exactly. How much did when you were putting together the Broadway musical version? How much, were you consulted on it by?
I was there through the whole thing. I was like a studio executive. I gave notes. I was there in every city when they were doing it. I was involved a lot, but they wanted me to be. I wasn't like butting in, But it was a very good experience. I learned a huge amount about the theater, just to see what happens when from the first table reading to the night you open on Broadway is quite an adventure.
And it was Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, I believe, wrote the songs.
Are they great?
Are they
bad? Friends with them. They totally got it. They're doing Some Like It Hot now.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on, nobody's perfect. Iconic final line, but are they bouncing on like Good Morning Baltimore or Welcome to the '60s or You Can't Stop the Beat? I mean, are they bouncing those off of you, or do you sit down and see it?
Sure, the first thing they played for me was a demo of 6 of the songs, and I thought these are great, and we all knew when it was happening that people said the only thing you can do is F this up, really, because never is it that good in the beginning. Everybody thought this is going to be a hit, and that's a curse. You don't want to think that. But it was, and right from the beginning, it clicked. It was never a time. I mean, they did rewrites, they changed stuff. There was a lot of things that made it better and better and better. But right from the beginning, you had the feeling this worked. And I think that is great. I owe that to Scott and Mark, because they so understood my humor and translated it to music.
Absolutely. Well, all these years later, I mean, we're talking about new Broadway heights of fame, but you'll always be associated with the indie Baltimore, those cult trash movies, right? and trash in the most complimentary sense. Do you have any filmmakers today that you think have assumed that mantle? Is there anyone that you think carries on your tradition?
Well, there's a lot I like, but they're usually foreign directors like Gaspar Noé and Bruno Dumont. I like Todd Solondz, Harmony Korine. But all the ones that the reviews say are John Waters-esque, you don't usually like them so much because they try too hard, and it just means they're gross or have a drag queen. Both those things are not that transgressive anymore. Many people have seen that. So I think it's youth's responsibility to come up something that'll make me nervous. That should be the next thing they try to do.
I feel like it's all been done. You've grossed us out and trashed in so many ways. Like, that's a high bar to clear. Like, what else is there left to do?
I did it and used it to make you look at things in a different way and to hopefully be funny too. It's easy to just be gross. That's not hard, but that's not witty. That doesn't change anything. That doesn't change people's politics. People, racists were so stupid, they even liked Hairspray.
That's true. Well, yeah, it is. The humor was definitely there.
They didn't even get it, that it was criticizing them.
Yeah, isn't that always the case? A lot of times it's the songs and the shows and things they hold up. They hold up the Archie Bunkers and the Born in the USA's and really don't really get that they're being criticized for that. That's always how it goes. But anyway, but let's bring it back. I know we're short on time, so bring it full circle back to the Birchmere here. What should we say to get people to come out? What's the final pitch here?
Well, if you're nervous about Christmas, if it's making you feel blue, if you feel broken by Christmas, or if you're so excited about it you can't wait to spend your last penny and buy every present for everybody in the world, you're both going to have a good time at my show, because we're going to make fun of the whole trauma or celebration of Christmas in a happy way.
In a happy way. And maybe even some peeing at the Birchmere.
Yes. And you never know, you might get lucky in the parking lot.
I think that's the perfect place to leave it. Hey, John Waters, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Talk to you later. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.
Explain your DNA on 10 cases, man.
You're inside the police interrogation room with the alleged Potomac River rapist.
I'm not guilty on any of this stuff.
So calm, so reasonable. Could this be the man who terrorized women for 9 years before murdering a brilliant scientist 2 decades ago? Experience one of the most fascinating true crime podcasts available. Join crime reporter Paul Wagner for Unknown Subject, Season 3 of WTOP's American Nightmare series. Search American Nightmare Podcast on all podcast platforms.
I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.